Hi everyone, over the past number of years we've seen the Irish government systematically try and destroy Irish neutrality. We've seen the Irish government force us into PESCO, into battle groups within NATO and also within the so-called European Peace Facility, which has been raided for war weapons to boost the profits of the military-industrial complex and to offer more of the barbarous killing machine. But of course, the Irish government have been able lapdogs for Brussels and for NATO. And we've seen incursions into warships into Irish ports over the past number of years. And in the last couple of days, there's been two further incursions of NATO warships into Irish ports, into Dublin and into Cobh in County Cork. Now, of course, the Irish government are dead set on destroying our triple lock and dragging us towards more militarism. They've already agreed in principle to the Rearming Europe plan, of course, without the permission of the people of Ireland. But of course, this is what the Irish government are fundamentally working for. Their bosses in Brussels, rather than serving the interests of the people of Ireland. And of course, the offices of NATO are straight across the street from the European Union offices in Brussels also, just very coincidentally. Now, in the last couple of days, there's been two warships in Irish ports. In Dublin, there was the BNS Louise Marie. This is a Belgian warship that was brought into Dublin port after completing the NATO Formidable Shield exercise in the North Sea and the North Atlantic. Now, this comes at the context of the push towards war in Ukraine and with the European Union dragging us towards more war as well, in particular with this Rearming Europe plan and doing all these military exercises. Now, this was part of a group of vessels from various countries such as Britain, Netherlands, Spain, France, the United States, Australia and Canada that got involved in these air and missile defence exercises in the North Sea. Now, it's not the first thing, because fundamentally this was the largest European integrated air and missile defence exercise. This took place from the 3rd of May until the 23rd of May, and it was commanded, surprise, surprise, by the 6th Fleet of the United States Navy. And of course, this is part of this Strike for NATO plan. Now, this warship came into Irish ports, of course, wasn't remarked upon at all by the Irish media and won't be spoke upon. It's now on its way to Plymouth, I understand, along the Irish Sea as well. Now, but this has been a myriad of incursions into our ports over the past number of years. And today, there's also a French warship that has landed in Cork, in Cobh, in County Cork. Now, of course, this was a helicopter carrier called the FS Tonnerre. Now, this is known as Thunder, if you get the English translation. And they're one of the largest landing ships in the world. It's about 200 meters long and about 32 meters wide. And as well, it was involved for many exercises, live military exercises for many years. And this would hold helicopters, troops, tanks and so forth as well. But this has become a common practice in Ireland over the past number of years. The frequent incursions into Irish ports by NATO warships. We should have no hand, act or part with any military alliance, whether it's serving the interests of Washington DC, serving the interests of Brussels or London. It served the interests of Ireland and Ireland alone. And it's crucially important as a former colonised country, and some would say a still colonised country economically. It is crucially important more than ever that we stand proud for Irish neutrality. And what kind of neutrality should we stand for? An active neutrality that defends our borders, defends our ports and defends our own skies. But unfortunately, we don't have that with the Irish government, who have the RAF patrolling the airspace. We have a depleted naval force in terms of we can't even patrol our own waters, and not to mention the fishing resources have been completely sold out through the European Union as well, and not to mention the smuggling that takes place, the human trafficking, and also the criminality of other forms that take place on our waters around our coast as well. And notwithstanding the neglect of many members of the Defence Forces who are vastly underpaid, and so many leave the Defence Forces because of the poor conditions that they're subject to because of deliberate and successive government policies. But of course the Irish government have no interest in supporting people who need the support to stand up for Irish neutrality and to stand up as a former colonised country that should have no hand, act or part with any military alliance, and stand up strong for diplomacy, stand up strong for peace, and stand up strong on an anti-war platform. That's what Irish people should always stand up for, against any imperial power, any power of empire that is dead set on controlling or confronting another empire which only has the interests in serving the ruling classes in society, and ultimately the oligarchs, the big corporations, at the expense of ordinary people who suffer and die because of these policies. But again, the Irish government are more interested in bowing down to Washington DC. Lately, Simon Harris has said, in terms of the tariffs, that they act in the interests of the security interests of the United States. Recently, a military deal was made with the US. This has to get approved by US Congress because it's in the US security national interests. It's not in the interests of Ireland, but of course Micheál Martin and Harris are able lapdogs for Brussels and Washington DC, not the interests of the people here in Ireland. So from Dublin tonight, on a very windy night, thanks a lot for the support, and really appreciate all the support of my videos. Please subscribe to my channel, and please share it far and wide to any groups you know to explain what's really going on in Irish society, because this won't be explained by the mainstream media or won't be discussed in any honest, transparent fashion. But this is what's taking place on our own doorstep, while many people are oblivious to what's taking place in society. So please spread the message and share it far and wide. So from Dublin, Slán, take care.